Today, we're going to be talking about 5 Pokemon that I think are going to be making a resurgence in Regulation F. And to kick things off, the first Pokemon we're going to touch on here is one of my absolute favorite Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet, and that is Palafin. Now, look, Palafin was without a doubt one of the best Pokemon we had in the first 3 regulations of, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but unfortunately, once Regulation D dropped and Urshifu was allowed into the metagame, it kind of really just fell off in usage, right? Urshifu was a Pokemon that, technically had, a lot better damage, at least on turn 1, had a guaranteed crit, could go through Protect, all that kind of stuff, right? And to be honest, the metagame was incredibly offensive, and Palafin really didn't have the time to set up that it needed, Palafin's biggest issue is it kind of really needs to cycle around, and unfortunately, in previous, formats, really the only ways it had to cycle around were, Amoonguss, and then, kind of maybe Rillaboom once that came back in. But unfortunately, it just wasn't consistent enough, right? But thankfully, in the current format, or at least, going into Regulation F, it has a new partner in Incineroar, right? When you pair up Incineroar and you pair that up with Rillaboom as well, you have 2, pretty good fake out bonds. One has, Intimidate, the other has Grassy Surge that can really help Palafin kind of get into the positions it needs to succeed. Now, look, there are other mons as well that I think pair incredibly well with this, one of which is Amoonguss. A core of, these 3 here, paired up with, say, Amoonguss, even Fluttermane as well, I think in this slot is, like, really, really good, right? All of a sudden, you just have this, like, really, good defensive core that kind of allows your Palafin to play, right? You can switch out your Palafin turn 1 into, one of these 2, and then you can go for something like, say, on turn 2, you can go for the fake out of this mon, and then you can go for, say, a U-turn coming out of here. I also probably should have mentioned there, for example, the turn you, switch out, say, for example, you go fake out here, you fake out whatever you need to fake out, swap Palafin into your Incineroar, and then you can basically use the Incineroar to fake out, get into your Palafin, and then if you need to, you can go like Protect, cycle back, into Incineroar, into Rillaboom using things like Parting Shot. And basically, you just put yourself into this position where you can use these 2 mons to really just cycle around and get your Palafin into a fantastic position, right? There are other, Pokemon out there as well, like things like Sinistra, I think is like really, really solid. And then 2, just any mon really that has, any kind of healing to keep your Palafin alive. Obviously, a fantastic one's Amoonguss, Clefairy as well is just another really good option. But basically, I think the reason Palafin could be on the rise is just because of its insane ability to pivot with these 2. Not to mention as well, you can pair this up with things like Flip Turn as well, right? If you wanted, say you lead Palafin and Incineroar, you can go for things like, say, fake out, into flip turn into, your Rillaboom, then you can just go fake out plus Parting Shot, then, you can get your Palafin in, then you can go like Protect, U-turn back into your Incineroar. It's honestly just really, really crazy, the pivot potential. And because of that, I do think the metagame will definitely slow down and balance will become a bit better. And I think that's where Palafin will definitely shine over Urshifu, especially when you think about, pairing it up with things like, Bulk Up and then as well Jet Punch, right? This one does a lot of damage, yeah? If you can get like 1 bulk up, all of a sudden it's absolutely insane. You look at this attack stat, like this here is absurd, right? Look at this. This is the standard set here, 231. If you get a bulk up, all of a sudden this mon's hitting for, nearly 250 damage. Then you have this insane priority move in Jet Punch. You also have, obviously Terra Water is fantastic on this mon. Terra Grass is also really, really solid as well, just especially as a defensive typing. And then things like obviously Leftovers, and I think also as well, Mystic Water are, just very standard, but very, very good. Because of that, I definitely think Palafin, paired up with this like pivot core, having things like Fluttermane there, I think it really has a chance to actually, get some pretty decent results coming into Regulation F. Now, the next mon we're going to touch on here is actually a mon that has, had a decent amount of success on and off throughout, its entire existence, and that is Pelipper. Now, Pelipper itself really hasn't actually changed that much, but the main thing this mon has is actually, one of its new partners being Archaladon. So Archaladon really is just the main reason for this strategy, and that is because Rain plus its signature move, Electro Shot, is fantastic, and I do think Pelipper is a fantastic partner with, Archaladon. Like, I'm personally a big fan of Politoed as a Rain setter. I do like it more than Pelipper, but I do think Pelipper's, synergy with Archaladon is fantastic, right? When you look at its typing, it being a steel type, its 2 real major weaknesses are obviously ground moves and fighting moves, right? Obviously, it is technically, well, it's actually not weak to fire. As a steel type, it has a dragon type, so it's neutral to fire, but then you pair that up with, obviously, with Drizzle, and it's just really, really good, right? But basically, fighting and ground are its 2 main weaknesses, right? That's really the 2 best ways to get through it. Pelipper resists one and is immune to the other, so I think as a defensive pivot, they're really, really good together. And then not to mention as well, it has access to things like Wide Guard as well, which is really, really good. Tailwind as well is fantastic. And then also actually just puts on quite a lot of offensive pressure, with Pump plus Hurricane in the rain. And I think things like Focus Sash are just fantastic with it, right? And again, you just probably go something like, Max here, because really, if you're running Sash, I don't really think there's any other reason to, you know, run anything different. If you wanted as well, there are obviously options, things like, you know, Rocky Helmet, Bulky is also fine as well. But I definitely think Pelipper, you know, paired up with Archaludon is going to be really, really good. I'll quickly, I guess, just kind of touch on this set, because Archaludon is kind of the main reason this set really works. But obviously, you know, when you got things like Pelipper, you've got, you know, your Electro Shot there, Dragon Pulse / Draco Meteor, whichever, you know, you would prefer. Obviously, you know, things like Flash Cannon as well. And then a great final option is Body Press, because Body Press paired up with Stamina is just fantastic. In terms of the spreads, I did actually touch on this recently in one of my my recent videos, but I do think you can go for something like, say, maybe like 170 Modest. Get just enough speed so, you know, if Pelipper does get up that tailwind for you, you know, you're pretty damn quick. And then really it's kind of just, you know, just dump the rest into your defenses, right? I like even numbers, so I'll go for something like that there. But yeah, this one is like really, really cool. In terms of Terra, you just got like Fairy. But yeah, thanks to Archaludon, I guess, being a pretty good mon. I do think if you can get this in a position where it can kind of just spam out Electro Shots, you know, it can be really, really good. And another fantastic partner, I guess I'll add in here as well, is Fluttermane. And really the main reason for, I think, for Fluttermane is just because, you know, you have this one that also puts on like a lot of damage, sorry, a lot of pressure with its damage output. It can kind of really just make space for Archaludon to kind of do what it wants. And again, you know, it's another mon that's really good into the fighting types, which Archaludon does kind of struggle with. Another cool tech as well, I guess you could potentially slap onto this. I don't necessarily think it's great, but you could always go for like U-turn. Because like self U-turn coming off like this like very low attack stat is actually going to do like 0 damage to your Archaludon. It's going to help you just get up when you know your stamina proxy if you body press. But yeah, I definitely think Pelipper has a lot of, you know, potential heading into this regulation, regulation F, I should say, especially too if Archaludon does to continue to pick up in usage. Now, the next one we're going to touch on here is another one that, you know, kind of had a bit of success early on, you know, in Scarlet and Violet, but definitely dropped off as it went on, and that is Hatterene. Now, the main reason why I think Hatterene can, you know, make a big comeback in Regulation F is it did get access to Expanding Force once again. It is finally back, and then DD plus Expanding Force is just really, really good. This is also a mon that really loves being under Trick Room, and if you have a look at this speed tier here, it has a beautiful 29 speed. Why is that so important? Because one of the best answers to Trick Room is this guy right here. 30 speed Amoonguss likes to underspeed everything. You know, you pair it with a lot of offensive threats. If they set Trick Room, you know, you get your Shroom in and you start just absolutely exploring everything. And Hatterene is the one that says, hey, not only do I just underspeed you with a quiet nature, but also, you know, if you don't Terra, I am going to absolutely nuke you with Expanding Force in terrain. You know, this mon is not living. It doesn't matter. You go something like this, I guarantee you that is, you know what, actually, give me a second. All right, so we go Hatterene, Terrifier Short versus Amoonguss, Citrus Berry. We're going to go 252 here. And we are going to go Expanding Force in Psychic Terrain, and oh, look at that. Dude, that is actually crazy. We quiet? Yeah, we're quiet there. Dude, that is almost like, I mean, look, that is in our role, right? 62% of the time we kill a max. You know what, for this purposes, actually go max. Dude, still 62% of the time. That actually doesn't change anything. Wait, I went down. 62% of the time, doesn't change anything. You kill a max, you know, Amoonguss, which is actually kind of crazy. And the other thing, I guess, too, that kind of works really well here is its ability, Magic Bounce. Basically, you know, Amoonguss can't support it, which is also, like, really, really cool. But yeah, you pair that up with Dazzling Gleam, and all of a sudden, you have an absolute monster under Trick Room. As well, though, that set did actually have Covered Cloak. I actually think Life Orb is actually better. And if you go Life Orb on this set, you'll actually see, you know, the massive damage change here. Yeah, 120%, that's not living. Even if you like defensive Terra, you're still getting 2-shot, which I think is really, really good. But yeah, Hatterene, I think, is going to be, without a doubt, one of the driving forces behind, you know, Trick Room being super, oh, sorry, not Trick Room, E-Force being really good going forward. And another thing as well is, you know, a lot of people touch on the fact that, you know, this kind of, you know, Size Spam, at least in the past, really struggled against Dark types. Hatterene does not struggle against Dark types like Armor Rouge did, right? Dazzling Gleam does a lot of damage. Obviously, you go for things like Protect, and then there's like Trick Room here. That's Trick, not Trick Room, Scott. Trick Room. But yeah, I definitely think Hatterene is definitely going to be on the rise. Expanding Force is such a big, you know, like a big get for this mon. And especially too, like you look at these stats here, right? This is a mon that just, like, its defenses are pretty good. Special attack's absurd. Its speed is super duper low. It's fantastic in Trick Room. And its HP stats, it's like only bad thing, but you kind of just max it out. This one becomes pretty damn bulky. It hits really damn hard. And yeah, I think Hatterene, actually, if you're being a good player, you go for something like this, let's be honest here. But yeah, I think Hatterene definitely has a massive niche going into Trick Room in the future. As well, you know, you can go for things like Terrifier. If you want to drop this, just go like Mystic Fire as well, right? If you're worried about certain things beating you. But yeah, you know, Hatterene, like, also, when I say certain things, this gives you answers into Steel types, right? Mystic Fire plus Terrifier. But yeah, I think Hatterene definitely will be on the rise, and you'll definitely see, you know, that become, I think, the primary, you know, E-Force user, especially in, you know, Size Spam that is in Trick Room. But the other thing too, I guess I'll quickly add as well, is actually Iron Crown. The reason Iron Crown 2 I think is super good here is because it actually gives you a fast mode with your Psy Spam, right? So if you are going, obviously, you know, like you go here, you go like Follow Me, you go in Trick Room, and then say, for example, I don't know, just like Helping Hand plus Dazzling Gleam or something, right? Just, you know, whatever, you have Psy Spam here. You know, if they are like too reliant on like, hey, I gotta stop the Trick Room, or there's something, you know, something like a Choice Scarf, you know, Iron Crown with Expanding Force can kind of come in and start dealing a lot of damage. And the cool thing too with Iron Crown is actually 1 point faster than Urshifu. So Urshifu's may have to actually start going jolly if this thing picks up in usage, because something like this will just outspeed Urshifu's and one-shot him. As well too, you have access to its new signature move being what's it called? Tachyon Cutter, there it is. And Tachyon Cutter, you know, hitting twice basically means it should almost always one-shot Fluttermanes and the other one, Qian Powers too, which is definitely really, really cool. But yeah, I definitely think, you know, Hatterene and the, you know, the Expanding Force metagame is definitely going to start changing up a bit. And so, look, I did touch on it yesterday. There are, you know, kind of other, you know, Psy Spam teams I think we'll be seeing, especially, you know, with things like, you know, Weakness Policy, Armor Rouge and whatnot. But yeah, I think Hatterene definitely has a place on Trick Room. So the next one here we're going to touch on is another mon I've been talking about for quite a while. One of my favorite mons. It was the star of my OCIC team in 2023, and that is T-Tar. Now, T-Tar itself, you know, very similar to Pelipper. It hasn't changed. It's going to do the same thing it's kind of been doing, you know, for the last couple of formats, right? Had a bit of success in Regulation, you know, E. Didn't really do anything in Reg D, unfortunately. But prior to Reg D, it was actually a pretty decent mon. It just does the same stuff it always does, right? It's got, like, you know, Rock Slider. Technically, it did actually get knockoff in the, you know, DLC 1, which is obviously really, really cool. I think Terra Blast is obviously fantastic on it. Last move, kind of whatever you want, right? I personally like low kick in case you're ever in situations where you got to fight a King Gambit. The sets, again, it depends on the team. If you're running, like, Tailwind, which is how I personally did run it. I think I ran something like this, actually. I think that's what I ran on like Tailwind. It was definitely pretty cool. But the main reason, anyway, we're talking about T-Tar is its friend, Excadrill. So, Excadrill coming back is absolutely, I think, one of the best things, really for T-Tar teams, right? Especially too with the new item being Clear Amulet. Basically meaning if Incineroar ever wants to do anything to your Excadrill, it really does actually have to try to, you know, pick you up with, try to get a knockoff on you to basically clear the Clear Amulet. But this one with high horsepower, Iron Head, and then just, of course, you know, like Swords Dance Protect, I think is going to be incredibly good. One really cool thing here too as well, if you go Adamant Max, you are actually faster than max speed. What's our good friend's name? Regieleki, which is definitely really, really cool. And then too, you can just kind of do like the same one. Like honestly, if you're running like SD, you could even just run something like 36 Adamant, and then kind of just like bulk this out, right? But obviously, I think you would probably just want to go like near max speed here. I think it's a 200. Where is it there? One, yeah, something like that. There, I think is probably fine, right? Can you get the? No, you're not going to be able to get them high enough to actually do anything with it, are you? Yeah, so like something like that I think is honestly pretty solid. If you're going, if you're going Clear Amulet, it doesn't matter. If you're going like a Life Orb set, which is like also like pretty decent, just make sure you go for a HP stat that ends in 9. So something like that would probably be, you know, a bit better if you wanted to get super, super picky with it. But yeah, Excadrill I think is going to have a really, really cool niche on, you know, these kind of, you know, sand teams going forward. It actually gives T-Tar like a friend finally that's good. As well too, you can also pair this up with probably something like say Terra Fairy, for example. I think it's just a really, really good, you know, just neutral defensive typing. And as well too, we've also got like Houndstone. I guess I'll touch on him as well. Houndstone is like an interesting Sand Rush user. Like it's not that good by itself. Like it kind of does force you to run Jolly, which is kind of sad. But one thing too as well is you can actually get like Howl up for it. And then as well things like Will-O-Wisp as well, and then it obviously gets Last Respects. So, you know, this does actually have, you know, I guess a bit of decent usage with these two, especially too because it's like a ghost type and like they're both weak to fighting. It kind of puts you in a position where, you know, if you feel like T-Tar, you know, going Terra Psychic's better, go Terra Psychic, cycle into, you know, this guy, you know, throw off Howls, you know, buffing up these two. Obviously as well, you know, things like Will-O-Wisp is also really, really important. And you got a pretty broken stab move that is like really, really good, and only really resisted by like what, Dark types and Fairy types, which, you know, Excadrill obviously deals with the Fairies pretty damn well. And then in terms of Dark types, like these two are both just pretty decent into them, right? Dark types can't really hit T-Tar, and Excadrill is kind of neutral, but again, this one hits so damn hard that it can, you know, put on a lot of pressure against them. And the final one I'm going to touch on here is, I think a pretty obvious one. I think most people probably expected this on this list, and that's Annihilape. Basically, Annihilape has been a mon that has always been pretty decent ever since this game dropped. Kind of has fallen off in, you know, the recent formats just because like what this one did best was like bulk up. It likes sitting behind screens, it likes getting its bulk ups up, and Urshifu, you know, with, you know, Surging Strike plus you know, Terra Water kind of just didn't care. You know, this mon's, I think its best defensive typing is definitely Fire because of, you know, obviously dealing with things like Fluttermane. But obviously if you go Fire, then Urshifu just beats you even faster. And because of that, you kind of wanted to go like Water or Grass. As well too, this one can like kind of have issues with Amoonguss where if you're not running like Safety Goggles or Grass, you kind of struggle into Amoonguss. So it's always been kind of awkward. But I think with the rise of Incineroar, Terra Water is definitely going to be very, very good. Basically, Incineroar can't fake you out. Obviously you've got Defiant, and I'm pretty sure, let's actually pull up the calc real quick. I'm pretty sure like Bulk Up Ape with 36 actually has a really good chance of just like KOing Max Incin here. 252. I lied. There is a chance. You've got a 31% chance to obviously kill here with Defiant. But yeah, like still like having that much, you know, of a chance, I guess, to kill this thing, and that's with like Max. She's just got like 4 here. I'm pretty sure they're probably gonna run a bit faster. I think I saw someone saying it was like 60. But still, just to have like a nuke that does this, especially too if you pair this up with anything like, say for example, Fluttermane. It can't fake you out, and then all of a sudden like D-Gleam plus like Drain Punch is going to mess you up. So yeah, that is like obviously really, really cool. But that's kind of like the main thing with Incin, right? I think as Intimidate will continue to pick up, Defiant's obviously really good. Like Rage Fist is also a fantastic ability. Drain Punch is sick as well. One other thing I guess as well, I'll kind of add on to this is I was personally testing out Assault Vest on this mon. So I didn't have quite as much for def, but I had, you know, a bit more HP and defense investment. Because I was running Assault Vest as well, I went close combat. And as you can see here, CC is just a guaranteed kill. There's nothing Incin can do about it, right? Even if like you got like 252, it just doesn't matter. You can be the bulkiest mon in the world. You have to defensive terror to, you know, basically live this thing. So yeah, because of that, you know, Incin is definitely, I think, going to be the #1 mon in the format, or at least it's going to be very damn close. It'll probably be Incin, Fluttermane, and Urshifu, let's be honest. And Annihilape has a pretty decent matchup into, you know, half of those, especially with defensive terrors, right? It kind of really does suck. I think that Urshifu is so damn good. Because if it wasn't for Urshifu basically being like super duper dominant, Terrify Ape I think would be insane. Like I think it would actually be near broken. But that too is, I guess, why I think like Assault Vest plus say like Terra Water is really good, right? Because if you go Assault Vest, Terra Water, it really fixes up your Incin matchup and your Urshifu Rapid Strike matchup. And then the Assault Vest also kind of really patches up that Fluttermane matchup a bit. Because, you know, at that point, if you take any attack, you know, the Rage Fist is going to just start, you know, sweeping through the Fluttermane in particular. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it. That's my 5 mons here. Let's just pull them all up, you know, I guess, for the outro here. Oh god, I can't stop. So we had Tita, we had Pelipper, we had Hatterene, and then of course my guy Palafin, my guy, the hero. But yeah, they're basically the 5 mon I think we'll see, you know, definitely rise in usage, at least compared to what they had in Regulation E. If you guys think I missed anything, you know, let me know down below. And of course, guys, if you could, obviously like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, good stuff. It means the world to me. We're on the way to hopefully 3K subs by the end of the year. It's gonna be a tough one, but I'm sure with you guys' support, we can definitely get there. But anyway, guys, that's me for this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.